All right, everybody, welcome back to the Gall's Deep podcast. Today, we are going to talk a little bit about Venezuela and Greenland, and kind of how we feel about that from an American first perspective. I know there is some controversy out there on American first. There's, I guess, what does it mean, American first? I know people on the right, or us on the right, some view it one way and some view it a little different. So all that said, we're just going to kind of give our perspective, and then I want you guys to kind of let us know, what you think and how you feel, if this is or where this fits from an American first perspective. So I guess let's kind of get into it. Let's see. Let me pull up. I got a couple questions here about Venezuela. We'll just kind of get right into it. I'm going to ask this question here, and this lady here next to me, my better half, is going to, give her thoughts and opinions because she's very opinionated, let me tell you. Anyways, all right, question one. What legal basis did the U.S. military have justifying capture? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't even read my own questions. What legal basis did the U.S. military have justify capturing a sitting foreign head of state? Uh, Hillary, what do you?
So, my biggest problem with this is the precedent that these actions set. So, probably all of you have been watching the news. If you haven't, then you've kind of been following what's been going on with Venezuela. It started with U.S. military bombing what Venezuela said were fishing boats, and what the U.S. government said were drug transport boats. And so started off with bombing these boats, and it was really hard to determine why we were doing that. What we were going all the way to Venezuela, we're blowing up these boats. What was the point of this? Supposedly it was to prevent import of drugs, but there are lots of ways that could have been done. So it seemed a little bit of aggressive from a U.S. perspective, especially considering how strong our military, Border Patrol, Coast Guard, all of those law enforcement and military organizations are at preventing boats from entering U.S. waters. So lots of ways it could have been prevented. So it felt a little bit aggressive. And then eventually the writing was on the wall that we could see that Trump was starting to posture in a more aggressive way towards taking some kind of action, military action against Venezuela. And then U.S. Special Forces entered the capital of Venezuela and arrested their president and brought him to New York, and he's currently being tried for drug trafficking and conspiracy. Nicolás Maduro and his wife were both arrested and brought to the United States. And so the reasons that President Trump cited in his press conference that he gave the day after Nicolás Maduro's arrest were that, one, this was to prevent the import of drugs into the United States, that Maduro was not cooperating with U.S., pressure to stem the flow of drugs into the United States. And then the other portion of that is that basically the oil production infrastructure of Venezuela has declined under Maduro and his predecessor, Hugo Chavez, and also that there is oppression of the Venezuelan people. So that was kind of his three-prong reason or moral case for why it was important for the U.S. to go into Venezuela and remove their head of state, their sitting president. Now, Trump also justified these actions by citing the economic benefit to the Venezuelan people, and then also the economic benefit to people in the United States, and that oil production in Venezuela would be opened up to U.S. oil producers to be able to go in and start pumping and refining and exporting oil from Venezuela. So with that, one of the things that really bothers me about this is that there are lots of countries that import drugs into the United States, a lot of countries that commit crimes against the United States and crimes against U.S. citizens, and we don't invade every single one of those countries and arrest their president and bring their president to the United States and try them for criminal charges. So what kind of precedent does this set And
Just seems like there's more to the story than what we're being told, and I just don't think we're being told the exact reason why. But I mean, not that these are bad reasons, but it seems like there's more to the story.
no, it definitely seems like, as President Trump laid out in his press conference, they're all, good and moral and ethical reasons. We want to liberate the people of Venezuela. We want to, improve their economy. We definitely want to improve the economy in the United States and bring money and jobs to U.S. citizens,
whole Western
and
Hemisphere for sure.
Reduce the stem of illicit drugs, because as much as some individuals may be in favor of legalization of drugs, especially our libertarian friends, I've never seen a single individual for whom taking heroin or cocaine or fentanyl or methamphetamines or any other kind of barbiturates or hallucinogens really improved their life, and so and made them a better person or made them a better citizen. So my perspective on the use of illegal drugs is that I'm against it, and I'm against legalization. So we definitely want to stop the import of illegal drugs into the United States. There's a lot that I can get into on that subject.
Yeah, it's a whole other subject.
A whole other subject. And so there is definitely a moral case for this.
I definitely want to stop the influx of fentanyl, things like that, because that's killing so many people every year. I just don't know if I don't think fentanyl's coming in from Venezuela, so that's why I was like, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like they would have gone after Mexico or some other country as opposed to Venezuela first, if this was really all about drugs, which that's why I think there's probably more to the story than we're being told. So.
I think that there's a lot more to the story, and I feel like that taking advantage of Venezuela's oil-rich natural resources and other natural resources that Venezuela has, and that basically, they were not exporting nearly as much oil as they could have been, that this is an untapped resource for the United States to now take control of and give U.S. oil companies the ability to take control of Venezuela, because we have such strict restrictions in the United States about drilling, exploring for drilling, refining oil, all of these things with all of our environmental restrictions and labor laws and the cost of transportation. So I can see where there's an economic benefit, but is that really America first?
It's a big question. So you guys let us know what you think. Is it American first or is it not? So kind of with that, so let me go to the next question. Does capturing Maduro violate international law or norms of sovereignty?
Right.
What do you think? I don't have a, does it violate international law? I would imagine it probably does to some degree, but we're also the U.S. and we kind of make our own laws, I think, because we're, the big boy on the block. So I don't know. I'm sure some of the international communities did not like this. And the rest part of that norms of sovereignty, did it violate the norms of their sovereignty? I mean, I kind of think so, but I don't know. You tell me. You have the bigger opinion here.
Venezuela is a sovereign nation, and Nicolás Maduro was, whether legitimately or illegitimately placed into power, he was the sitting leader of Venezuela, the sitting president, I guess is what they were calling him, of Venezuela. And, I don't think that there's any doubt that Nicolás Maduro's administration was oppressive, that there were very oppressive laws, that Venezuela used to be the jewel of South America and, a very prosperous country, very free people, with a beautiful way of life. And, since, when Hugo Chavez came into power and then subsequently Nicolás Maduro came into power, the economy in Venezuela, the infrastructure of Venezuela, the freedoms and liberties that people enjoyed in Venezuela have all declined over time. But
does this give us, just because we don't like their leadership, does that give us the right to go in and remove them?
Right. I don't think that it does. And I can look at this, if you're looking at this situation from an American outsider looking into the United States, a lot of people around the world don't like our president. There are a lot of sitting leaders and countries and individuals around the world who think that President Trump is a criminal and that he is oppressive, that he's a dictator, that he was unlawfully elected, that his administration's policies are oppressive or restrictive. You could take an outsider looking at the way that the National Guard is assisting in keeping the peace around ICE facilities and our policies on deportation. And although I support our policies on deportation and I support our military and our National Guard supporting our immigration services agents, an outsider looking in could determine that that is not lawful and it's a violation of international law. And all it would take would be some other person trying to send their military into our country. I don't think that they would get very far. No. And I don't think that another country would come and arrest our president and take him back to their country and then try him in criminal court. But this may lead into the next question.
Yeah. So the next question is, how do you feel about this on a geopolitical or global scale? Short-term versus long-term benefits and or ramifications.
So, and as much as I would love to believe that our amazing country will be as strong as it is forever, it will only remain as strong as it is forever as long as, Americans continue to believe in the strength of America, and as long as the U.S. government continues to uphold the American values of, freedom and liberty and the right to self-determination. And so I think that that if there ever comes a time when the United States is not as strong as it is, that if we're not the, strongest global superpower on earth, then what will happen in the future? Will there come a day when another country who doesn't like us and our way of life and our government's policies want to come in and, arrest our president and take him or her back to their country and try that individual for criminal charges, leaving us, in a state of chaos, leaderless? I think that President Trump was wise in wanting to keep an existing leader from Venezuela in place and keeping the existing administration in place.
Yeah, I think they learned that after the debacle in Iraq, when they just destroyed the whole administration, the whole government system, and Iraq just went to pieces.
I think the thing that really bothers me the most about this was this really necessary? Do the benefits of arresting Nicolás Maduro and charging him with criminal charges and...
Sorry about that, guys. If y'all can hear our dog is just pacing around this house, and that's his little feet, or little feet just going up crazy. So apologize for that.
Do the benefits outweigh the risks, long-term or short-term? I don't think that there are a lot of short-term risks here, but I do have concern over the potential long-term risks and the reputation that the United States has on the global stage. And, I love America and I love Americans. I've traveled around the world and I think Americans are really amazing people. And this really is one of the best countries in the world to live. There's nowhere else that I would rather live right now. And I want the United States to have a great reputation on the global stage. I want the rest of the world to view us as strong and free and independent, but also just and merciful and compassionate and leading from a place of strength and not being perceived as bullies on the world stage. And so that's the thing that really bothers me about this situation with Venezuela. And, whether or not we're going to talk about this from the perspective of is it America first? I think that you can look at it from both directions. If you look at it from President Trump's point of view, it's America first in that he's stopping the inflow of drugs into the United States. It's America first in if we liberated Venezuelans and we create a bunch of friends in Venezuela who love America and want to collaborate with us on international policy and trade, then yes, then that benefits America. And that is an America first outcome through something that doesn't right off the top seem like an America first intervention. It seems a little bit self-serving. And then third, if this improves the economy in the United States and brings more jobs, especially jobs for people who work in the oil and gas industry, which has suffered so much over the last 15 years, then this is America first.
I think all of us concern is it going to help the American people and not just the elites in Washington. That's, to me, that's not America first. That's Washington elites first. So that was kind of the big, back and forth, is this, really going to help us as America first or not? So definitely chime in. Let us know in the comments what you guys think.
Right.
One way or the other, we'd like to hear it. We're open-minded to kind of hearing both sides of here. So let us know. So let's move on to the next one real quick. This one's going to be over I was about to say Greenville. Greenland. Sorry, Greenville is a city nearby, but Greenland. All right, so got a couple questions. Again, is this a serious proposal or a strategic trolling by Trump? Because we know Trump is good at trolling. If you ever watch or see his stuff on Truth Social. All right. What say you?
So looking at the situation with Greenland, kind of recounting current events,
Sorry, I got the wrong feed up here. Hang on. Technical issues. One more try. Let me try this again. Hang on. Let's go to that screen. Get off of that. Let me see. It's, I'm still trying to work out OBS here.
So I'll go ahead and start talking about Greenland, though, while you're getting that up on the screen. So President Trump has been talking recently about annexing Greenland. Currently, Greenland is under the control and protection of Denmark. Denmark and Greenland are not that close to each other. But then again, Greenland's not that close to the United States either. But Greenland is a country that is on the Arctic Ocean, on the Arctic Circle, that's basically across the Arctic Ocean from Russia, and it's at the northeastern border of Canada.
Geography lesson for everybody.
So if you're wondering where Greenland is,
you got it.
It's a huge island nation that is frozen for most of the year. It is rich in natural resources, oil, and rare earth elements.
Which I think that probably leads to a question too: why Greenland specifically?
And then President Trump initially, when he first started talking about annexing Greenland, I think a lot of people thought that it was just trolling. But as the weeks go by, it seems that President Trump is becoming more and more serious about the prospect of annexing Greenland. And
now I have not heard have you heard, Hillary, when they're not planning on trying to make it a U.S. state. It's just more going to be a U.S. territory.
No, a U.S. territory.
Like Puerto Rico and Guam and some places like that. Okay, yeah.
Right, as far as I know. And,
if you have heard anything different, let us know. Because I have not heard. I think it's just more of like just taking over
like a U.S. protectorate. So I think that this is becoming a more serious proposal by President Trump. I think he was definitely flirting with the idea in the beginning. He's certainly ruffled some feathers. I know that European nations are upset about this. Of course, the Danes are definitely upset about this. They have, been basically in control of Greenland and operating as Greenland's government and had access to Greenland's natural resources I'm not sure when that protectorate or when that collaboration started between them. Maybe you guys can let us know in the comments if you can look it up for us. But that being said, I think that this goes into why Greenland specifically. I think that I do think that Trump is expanding the American empire. We can definitely talk about American imperialism in another video, and I think that would be a great topic for another day. But I think that he is trying to expand the American empire. I think that in this move that strategically Greenland is very close to Russia. We already have a military base that has somewhat been decommissioned. I don't know if it's still in active use, but there is a U.S. military base on Greenland. Yeah, so it gives us really close access to Russia, which I don't know how much we are in danger or what the degree of threat is from Russia at this time against the United States, but it definitely gives us, a closer vantage point in the event.
No more or less than it was when I was a kid in the 80s
when we had to hide under our desks.
When the Soviet Empire was at their peak. But
but why Greenland specifically? I mean, that one, strategic military access to Russia, Northern Europe, you're basically at the top of the world. The other thing is shipping lanes and shipping channels.
There they go. You see the dog walking through.
shipping lanes and shipping channels, because with global warming, it's a thing. The temperature of the earth is getting a little bit warmer. The polar ice caps are melting. They've been talking about that since the 80s when I was a kid. This is not anything new, and I'm not going to get into a discussion about environmentalism or anything like that. It's just the facts that the waterways around the Arctic Circle are becoming more navigable. And with these more navigable waterways, then that opens up fishing lanes, it opens up shipping lanes, it opens up the ability to mine and extract natural resources from lands that were previously untapped, because now there's a way to actually get those raw materials out and transported to places around the world or the United States where those materials can be refined and then utilized and, turned into other products.
I'd also heard that there was somebody, I don't remember his name, guys, let me know, help me out, that somebody wants Greenland so they can run all their servers, this whole AI servers, because they need cool temperatures to keep these servers.
Oh, that's a good point too.
Not running hot. So I've heard that's another reason why they want to get Greenland. So
Greenland is frozen most of the year.
Set up like an AI city or something like that. I thought I heard that. Y'all fact check me on that. And that would be kind of interesting. Hey, why did you conquer Greenland? Because we wanted to set up AI servers. Oh, that'd be one for the history books, but
right, free air conditioning.
So
I do think that President Trump is becoming more and more serious about this. I don't think he's worried about ruffling the feathers of European heads of state. I don't think he's worried about upsetting Denmark and their leadership.
No,
I don't think that they're a threat to us. I think that they're going to.
They're just going to go along with it.
Yeah,
they had no. There's no way, but they don't have a choice.
Really. I mean, understanding why Greenland. I think it's very understandable. Now, when it comes to, is this an ethical thing to do? We have to consider Greenland's sovereignty and the consent of the people from Greenland.
And the latest survey I looked at, I think like 85% said no, they want to stay under the Danes and not American control. So, I mean,
right.
Why don't we take that in consideration?
I think it should be a consideration. Looking at this just kind of in the same vein as talking about Venezuela, and what does this do to the reputation of the United States on the world stage? I think that a lot of our strength should come from having a good reputation. Not just from, well, we better do what they say because they're stronger than we are, or they're going to implement sanctions that are going to bankrupt our country and starve our people. I don't want to use threats of violence and extortion as the tools in diplomacy. I think that it would be a much better strategy long term for the United States to be seen as a strong, ethical, and just ally, and not an ally that other countries kowtow to out of fear, obligation, or extortion. And so I think that the opinion of the people from Greenland really counts here. I would not want to be happily living in my country and have another country decide, the United States looks really appealing. They have tons of natural resources.
Let's just buy
lots of, undeveloped land. I think that we're going to annex the United States to be part of our country. It's like if Canada, now this is just a thought experiment, if Canada decided that they wanted white sand beaches, and they're like, you know what, the United States has white sand beaches, so I think that we're going to annex the U.S.
Good luck, Canada. Good luck.
I don't think that it would happen.
We have lots of guns.
But I would not want to be Canadian. I'm sure Canada is a wonderful country. I've never been. I've heard that people from Canada are very nice. That might just be a stereotype, even if it is a positive stereotype. But even still, I'm an American. I would like to be an American, for better or for worse. This is my country and this is my homeland. I would not want another country exerting that kind of influence over me and my way of life. I want my way of life to stay the way it is, or continue to improve, but improve in a way that I choose, not in a way that is imposed upon me by an outside government. And so I think that this is a violation of Greenland's sovereignty. I personally think that Greenland shouldn't even be a protectorate of Denmark.
I think they should be their own country.
They should be their own independent country. Yeah. I mean, if they want to join North America and be considered North American, great. I think that'd be really cool. Let's add another country to North America. Yeah. But I don't think that Greenland should be definitely not taken by force. I don't think that Greenland should be taken by extortion. I don't think Greenland should be taken from the, protection or the governance of Denmark by force, extortion, bribery, or any other kind of negative means. I think that if the people of Greenland want to be annexed and become a protectorate of the United States, then fantastic, let's do it.
They should at least have a vote on it too.
I think that they should have a vote on it. I think that their say really matters, and I don't want to create another population of people in the world who hate the United States and who resent Americans, because I don't think that that's who American people are. I think that, one of the things that's so wonderful about America and Americans is that we all value freedom, whether we believe in principles of the right or principles of the left. I think that one thing is true across the board, that everybody here wants the freedom to choose how they live and where they live and the way that they conduct themselves in their daily lives, and living their life, in the way that they see fit to the best of their ability in accordance with their own values. So that being said, both of these situations are really bothering me. There are definitely some common themes with the situation with Venezuela and with Greenland.
There's definitely, we can see some good and bad from the situation. So we just don't
know.
Only time will tell.
I think the thing that bothers me the most is I'm tired of the United States being seen as a meddlesome bully on the world stage. And I think that I appreciate, peace through strength. I appreciate being a just and ethical and moral country that tries to do good in the world and helps people when they need it, but that doesn't interfere unnecessarily in the affairs of other countries. And so this is the thing that's really bothering me about both of these situations. I would love to hear what you guys think. I would love for you to fill in some of the details and some of the gaps. Especially things like when did Greenville become a protectorate of Denmark? How long is that?
Greenland.
Oh, sorry, Greenland. Sorry, we have a town nearby called Greenville. So Greenland. Slip of the tongue. I apologize. So that's, I think that it's important for Americans to weigh in on this, because this doesn't just affect people who live in Greenland, and it doesn't just affect people who live in Venezuela, but this affects us too. And the sovereignty of our country, the safety of future generations, and how our country continues to be perceived on the world stage. And do we want to be perceived as the good guys? Or do we want to be seen as meddlesome bullies who use extortion to get what we want?
But with that being said, though, I do want to give credit to the military, the performance that they did in Venezuela. I mean, you don't get any better than the U.S. military and what they did. Right or wrong, those guys, y'all did a great job. Excellent job. Precision. But does it really fit in the America First agenda? We want to know, what do you guys think? Let us know. Let us know in the comments. And got anything else?
No, that's
all right, that's it, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Just make sure you like and subscribe and all the good stuff.
Thanks. Have a good night.